Yeah, come see, come see what he has. So many things for you, yeah. Father, you shine bright in these ugly times. That's why I love you so. He's the way, he's the truth, he's the light shining down for you. Come and see, yeah, you will, yeah. Hey, Cyber World, Cyber World, Cyber World. It's good to see everybody. It's good to be back. I'm still here. I'm still kicking. Bless God. We say goodbye. Well, hey, Mr. Green, thanks for joining me today. And for those of you who don't know what this is all about, this is called Arlene's Renaissance. My name is Arlene, and I'll be 65 years old soon here in a couple of months. And so as I began this when I turned 50, I was almost 200 pounds heavier than I am now. And so a coworker that I worked with at the time, she saw me, I guess, changing course in my life, and my mind was made up or whatever. And so she suggested I share the process. And so I called it Arlene's Renaissance, because I'm, kind of being remade here and in my own, coming into myself. And so I shared it. Matter of fact, she's very sick right now. Keeping her in prayer. And so that's how this began. And so it's developed. I started painting and a lot of things that, I wanted to do all my life. Now that I'm older, I have time to do them. And so I do, and that's what I'm sharing. And also because I'm from the region of DC, DMV area, most of my life in and out. I, once even worked for the League of Women Voters, who used to host the presidential debates. And so I was enmeshed in a lot of politics, and it just surrounded me a lot. And so that's an area that interests me, and especially these days with all the things going on. So I include that a lot. But other times I do different things, but that's what this is. Anyway, we say goodbye to Chuck Norris. He was 86 years old, y'all. Wow. And I told you guys that, Trump basically is cutting off Zambia so his sons' minds can profit. He's just wrangling more and more money from other countries with our muscle and might that you voters who voted for this gave him. Carte blanche. Yeah. And these people are in desperate need of HIV treatments. He's withholding them until he gets what he wants, which is basically their resources, their copper, and it was a couple other things. Anyway, it was Zambia. And they'll need to grant the U.S. access to its copper, cobalt, and lithium reserves. And they must also agree to restructure a nearly $500 million agricultural grant to require regulatory changes in its mining sector. To whose gain and to whose profit? Even once you've left office, your children are still, well, whatever. Anyway, about 1.3 million people in Zambia rely on daily HIV treatment provided through USAID programs. That's what he's holding over their heads. Wow. Anyway, I know everybody saw the Afro Man thing. Now, this was the funny... Okay, it took me a minute to remember who Afro Man is. He's the guy that was saying, I was going to go to work, but then I got high. That guy. And basically, these people's messed up, botched raid reinvigorated his career. They pulled the raid on this man's house. He was there. They kicked in his door, rumbled through all of his stuff. And then one of the cops, I guess his mom had made, the Afro man's mom had made a homemade lemon pound cake. And the cop was in the kitchen like, God, just one piece. And then Afro Man made some derogatory remarks about one of the other cops, his wife. Also, I want calling him an SOB. So they locked him up. Of course, they had to drop the charges because they didn't find anything, whatever they were looking for, drugs, guns. I don't know what they were looking for, but whatever it was, they didn't find it that day. And anyway, after that didn't pan out, the cops, and then Afroman, once he gets out, makes a song. And what he did in the song was include all the footage from his house camera in the video of the song, ragging the cops, calling the other guy Pound Cake Man, and the other guy, it was this, and he insulted the other cop by saying he slept with his wife. Well, the cops got mad and sued him. And so once they sued him, I'm like, they must not have really thought about it, because you have to come in and testify. You're suing him for defaming you. He called you an SOB. Now you have to come in and prove you're not an SOB. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Because, by the way, Afroman is MAGA, full-blown MAGA, okay, black MAGA, okay, so I have no idea what that's all about. But I'm pretty sure his lawyer told him, come, dress, this is a serious matter, this is court, and he was up to the task. Dude came in a full U.S. flag suit. With big ass bro. But if you could have seen the cop when the lawyer said, well, are you an SOB? Hey, Mike, thanks for joining me. And the cop says, he said, well, my wife says I am, but but that wasn't the worst part. When he asked the cop, the lawyer asked the cop on the stand, do you know whether you're not, no, did your wife sleep with him or not? And he said, well, I don't know. I was like, dude, the marriage is officially in trouble. The internet is forever. When you get home, she gonna light that behind up. Happy Saturday, Mike. It's cold here. I can't wait till it warms up. I got so many things I want to get done. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. And that was just the funniest thing in the world to me. The Afroman thing was just absolutely hilarious. I don't know what's wrong with mine. There we go. It was hilarious. I couldn't. And it's still going on because they lost it. They lost their lawsuit. They were not defamed. They decided, and that now you guys just got to do better. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, it was funny. The guy said, I was traumatized because people keep sending me pound cakes and calling me Pound Cake Man. It was hilarious. And when they asked Afroman on the stand, did he feel as if, they should, they were harmed by his video? He said, harmed? I'm the one who was harmed. He said, did I come to y'all's house and kick y'all's door in? Did I rummage through all y'all stuff? I was like, he said, no, I didn't. You harmed me. I was like, oh, whew. It's funny. And there's more to come, I'm sure. Wow. And now everyone who didn't even know who Afroman is now knows who Afroman is. Wow. Anyway, the GOP owns the voting machines. I've been shouting that from the rafters for the last few months when they first did it. I see no idea, no reason why they should be allowed to own voting machines. It should be, oh God. Anyway, billionaire investor Roy Dalio warned that the Iran-Warren Strait of Hormuz closure could trigger a U.S. collapse scenario. And we're kind of seeing that a little bit now. You're going around. A lot of countries are going around the U.S. and finding new allies and forging new paths, basically. Pacts and things of that nature that exclude us. We have backed down, basically, from the Iran war. We're going to have to send troops on the ground. Wow. But the thing that is scariest of all is that with this whole Hormuz thing, the Strait of Hormuz, when the oil's not getting through, it's usually traded in U.S. dollar. And so because the U.S. has taken out U.S. and Israel, that Iran is not allowing that, the other countries are then going directly to Iran with yen currency and securing their passage through. It's wow. I just don't think I mean, unless he, a Russian plant couldn't have done better than taking us down. Let me just put it that way. So that now your only options are boots on the ground or nuclear. And do not for one moment fool yourself. This man, that is clearly always an option on the table, with or without notifying us. Yeah, he would. Wow. In a move that signals massive shift in global energy trade, the Iranian government has officially permitted the first oil tanker to pass through heavily restricted Strait of Hormuz after transaction was settled in the Chinese yuan. The vessel, identified as the MT Karachi, is Aframax class tanker. Wow. And that's can be pretty devastating for us. I think that's one of the reasons why we're backing down, because other countries have basically said, well, you ain't the only pony show in town. Basically, the long and the short of it. Wow. Despite this being the cornerstone of Iranian defense for decades, Trump administration seems to have been caught off guard. And the major reason is that the State Department no longer has any oil and gas experts. They have been fired. They fired them last July as part of reduction in force efforts. I guess that was that Doge thing. And they went through and fired all the experts and put in, because they said they were DEI, because if it was a woman or if it was a Democrat or whatever, they were DEI. Not that they were qualified people. Then you put all these cronyisms and whatever else you got in there, nepotisms in place, and they don't know what they're doing. And it is a complete and total disaster. Wow. Now, of course, you're going to start blaming other people. Oh, Iran did this and no, that was you. Because you gave the okay. I mean, who's in charge of the U.S.? You or Israel? Wow. And this was interesting. The Polk County Sheriff, remember that guy who was so outspoken, Grady Judd? Well, he just did a full 180. Now he's all out there. This is terrible. This ICE actions, they must stop. We're not doing, this isn't what we were told it was going to be. We're just ripping families apart. Really? I see it being exactly what he said it was going to be. You know why? Because he's a liar. And he's a criminal. And you all, for some reason, think he's a choir boy. He's been charged so many times with sexual assault, it's ridiculous. But this is the hill you wanted to, bury your flag in. And now you're out there, I'm sure it's getting to you. 5-year-olds being handcuffed. But once, Alice got killed, that changed the game, because at first you probably wasn't impressed at all. These are hardworking people. They're not criminals. They're part of our communities. Oh, you just figured that out? That just because their skin is brown, that does not make them not a part of your community? Well, thank you for joining the rest of the human race. Finally. It only took a war to get you to see it. Wow, Polk County has a huge agriculture industry. When ICE starts sweeping up the very workers keeping those fields alive, the impact hits fast. And it's showing up at the grocery stores, along as with this last debacle showing up at the gas pumps. Business owners are feeling it. Donors are feeling it. The system is feeling it. And it isn't just Polk County. It's happening across the country. Wow. The truth is catching up, and so are the political consequences. Conservative internal polling is taking a hit because people are seeing the human cost behind these policies. I've said this a million times. Policies are people. It's just that it's people close to you and you're seeing it in your face. And I guess they look closer to you. I think they didn't plan on as many white people fighting this as did. I think they really thought we would come out, and then there would be more justification for beating down black and brown bodies. But I don't really think they thought their neighbors would come out as strong as they did. You know, it's really amazing, amazing, amazing to see. Wow. Anyway, we're an international disgrace. Trump sent one of Epstein's pedo buddies, Tom Barrack, to chair the UN Security Council after Melania did such a wonderful job. See, this is what you get when you have nepotism and cronyism. You get a bunch of people wearing shoes that don't fit because the king said, "They're such great shoes, and I bought you some, so put them on." It's good to be the king. Wow. Anyway, it's mind-boggling. Just days after Melania's debacle, about protecting children in conflict zones right after we bombed 100 and so odd children. Mr. I won a Nobel Peace Prize. Wow. Wow. It's a peek at MAGA era moral bankruptcy. Sending the wife of the president to preach about child protection while U.S. bombs fall on kids abroad. Then putting an Epstein-accused child rapist in charge of lecturing the world on human rights in the very region where U.S. actions are causing mass civilian suffering. The best job. Only the best. He hires only the best. Are we great yet? Because let me know when we get there. The optics are grotesque. And the message is clear. Wow. They have zero credibility on human rights. All this hoopla about we're coming there to rescue the women in Iran. Let me tell you a little story about that. We had plenty of time to do something. We could have put sanctions against them. We could have done a lot of things. It wasn't important then. It wasn't important until you got that Venezuelan oil that you stole and coveted. Thou shalt not covet. That you coveted America's manifest destiny, which is just another pretty word for coveting or stealing, Paula. Can you advise on that? Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's anything, his oil. But you got that thick crude and you can't do nothing with it. Not a doggone thing. But Iran has a thin volume that you need access to. And you couldn't find anybody else who was willing to invest to get that other mess where you needed to be. So now you went over there and stole some mess you can't use. So now you got to steal some other mess so you can make more money for yourself when you ain't even gonna have time to spend none of it. It's amazing, isn't it? Wow. I need millions of dollars when I ain't gonna live for 5 years. I ain't gonna live for 10 millions and billions of dollars. There you go. Wow. Okay, well anyway, money voucher programs. Remember that big thing they kept selling us? And I kind of had reservations about it. But I knew some friends who used it and they kind of, swore by it. And it did help some. But programs like that always get me because I know that you ain't giving nothing. There's an underlying thing you're doing. Well, as it turns out, there is. It's basically a gift for those wealthy enough to afford private school, it turns out. And on top of that, if your child is going to a private school and it doesn't have the athletic program your child desires, they can now displace a public school child in that sport if they're good enough. Private school kids get access to money and public school athletics, if needed, taking care of friends and family. Wow. There you go. Anyway, and this one was interesting. Another one of these Trump associates. This is alleged. He pulled some strings to get his ex-girlfriend detained by ICE. I guess it's, to repay her for something. I don't know. To help him with a custody battle over their child. Now you've labeled her as this or that. You've had her picked up. She's locked up. And so now you can get your child. This is what you all gave power to. I personally think that every one of you that voted for this should be penalized. Simply because you're voting for treasonous acts. You're voting for the dismantling of the Constitution. as if it will never knock on your door. You know, voting is a earnest right that should be taken with reverence, because what you vote on affects other people, not just you. But then that's the problem. You only care about you on your way to heaven, not loving your neighbor as yourself. Good luck when you get there. Wow. That's amazing. Paolo Zampalli reported it. Wow. That's his name, Paolo Zampalli. Wow. He flagged her as undocumented, suggesting that she be picked up and detained before she could be released. Wow. This is what you got. You know, hey, this is what you voted for. And in another confrontation, they had a judge, a sitting judge, courthouse parking lot. He was sitting there with a student, and they drugged him from his vehicle just to get the high school intern. Surrounded his vehicles, guns blazing, ready. And he was just like in shock. He's like, what are you doing? I'm a judge. I'm taking this person for something. I guess he was taking her. She was, like an intern. And he said, she's fully documented. What are you doing? They would not listen to her, drug him and her out, and basically took her away and ended up releasing her. And of course, they're appalled and shocked. We're not shocked. This happened to us plenty of times. Plenty. Only we're never seen again. And we're told that he hung himself. I don't know why we found him and his organs wasn't in his body. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, so, wow. And he said it's not just a mistake, it's a terrifying look at what happens when federal power is unchecked and local authorities are bullied into submission. Wow. Well, okay. I'm not sure if Benjamin Netanyahu is still alive or not. I mean, I saw the videos of him that was supposed to be him, but, he had 6 fingers and, it was weird stuff in the video. It was disappearing and, coming into the thing. You can tell AI. I mean, you can tell AI. I find some AI irritating, but some of it I find truly entertaining and beautiful. Just the colors, the vibrancy, and the little kids dancing. Some of it I absolutely love. But I really don't need you to tell me a fake story. I can't stand that monotone voice. I can listen to a real story. But anyway, I'm not sure if he's alive or not. They've been conducting relentless bombing in Gaza, for over 2 years. The thing that gets me is they are freaking out. Right now, Israel, they're being bombed. They're being bombarded. Their protective dome thing didn't work with a $20,000 drone that was able to just, basically disarm it because it threw too much at it in one time. And so, now you should see the videos. They're in their bunkers and they're crying and they're screaming and they're praying and crying out to God in the bunkers that they still are discriminating in, because if you're not this or that, you can't get in the bunker while you're crying out to God. Are you not getting the message? But I guess you can do that if you can stand in an American church upstairs praising God while you're bringing African slaves in the bottom. So I guess you ain't no different in America, thinking yourself better than everybody else all the time. I guess that's why you wanted to whitewash your history. Anyway, you've been doing, I thought about it. I'm like, you've been bombing the Gaza for over 2 years. It ain't been a week. Y'all been being bombed for 1 week. You've been bombing the Gaza Strip continuously for 2 years. You know how many people died? 70,000 Palestinians. 70,000, America, not 7 soldiers. 70,000. Yeah. Wow. 80% of the infrastructure and prolonged tightening of the blockade. Wow. Widespread destruction. Wow. And that's not just it. It continues. It continues. It was before that as well. You know, it's been 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021, since 2007. But now you're crying out in your segregated bunkers. I mean, I don't know everything. I haven't read the Torah, but I have read the Holy Scriptures. Okay, well, maybe that's in your faith. I don't know. Maybe it's allowed in your faith. I don't know. God said he hates a haughty look. You know what a haughty look is? I'm better than them. I'm better than those, than that, because I am it. All righty. Now Trump is simultaneously claiming that he won the war, is currently winning the war, and the war's been won, but I'm still winning it, but I need some help to win the war that's already been won, and then I don't need no help to win the war, and also to destroy the nuclear program he claims to have already destroyed last year. Now, I'm not schizophrenic or bipolar, and there's nothing wrong with my intellectual quotient. I know gibberish and gobbledygook when I hear it. It might as well be baby talk. Goo goo gag 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 goo goo. That's what he just said. A whole bunch of dribble of nothing. He claimed the former president wished he'd done what Trump did. Remember that one this week? And all four sitting presidents said that also is a lie. Never happened. He insists, double downs on the lie. There you go. Wow, amazing. Anyway, ironically, the people who could have helped us against these machines are the Ukrainians. Yeah, that's who could have helped us against those drone machines. But Trump declared last week that the last person we need help from is Zelensky. Once and again. Oh well, presidential as ever. Corruption and greed rampant in this men. What exactly do you MAGA get out to do? I've been trying to figure it out. You know, you voted for this, and what exactly are you getting? Okay, you've gotten rid of abortion. Your numbers of births aren't going up. People just more serious about their birth control now, and now more girls are deciding that they'll just have a hysterectomy before I ever think about bearing my rapist child. Well, that didn't work. You know, so what exactly are you getting? Well, it's the Latinos. They taking all the jobs. Get rid of them. Well, you got rid of them. And you also lost 92,000 jobs in the process. More to come. Where are all these jobs that the Latinos were taking? Those jobs should have been filled with all the thousands of Latinos you've locked up, at the very least. I'm sorry, what are you getting out of this? Exactly. Someone other than someone who hates the people you hate. Did he put any money in your pocket? Now, I look like it's taking money out your pocket. Everything's higher. Good luck paying for that gas. Anyway, personally, the Senate is wasting floor time on the Save America Act. It's stupid. It's not even necessary. I voted with my driver's license since I was young. Yeah. And now I'm old. I'm 65 years old. And have been married a few times. So now I got to go. And have had a passport. The passport just expired. So now I can't use an expired passport because I wasn't really planning on going anywhere. Now I got to go spend $200 to get a passport. And to get another driver's license when I had to use my birth certificate to get the first driver's license. Do you think I've changed through all this time? Because my social security number sure hasn't changed, and I had to use that then as well. It's poppycoddle. We already use an ID to vote. It's called a driver's license. They don't give illegals driver's licenses. They give LGBTQ people licenses in whatever persona that they choose. You've already outlawed that. Still not happy that's not enough. Show you right. It wants to guarantee, because he keeps saying it, because it'll guarantee we win. It'll guarantee we win. How? By cheating? By erasing people from the rolls? People like me? So which name can I vote under? My second marriage name, my third marriage name? My maiden name? What's it gonna be? Because the birth certificate says maiden name. You see how it's nonsense? Because my fingerprints ain't changed. And I've been in the military. It's crap. Wow. It's to guarantee they win the midterms. Because people have had enough, even their own people. Now I want you to see this. You people who voted for them, they're trying to ensure that you can't get rid of them. And then, what happens to you when all of those democratic barriers are removed? It's what you voted for. Because removing them from me also removes them from you. If you set off something nuclear in Iran, guess what it does to Israel? And every place in that region. And then who's going to mine what oil in that toxicity? I'm pretty sure he won't think that through. He didn't think through the Strait of Hormuz. Whatever. Anyway, working in the background, the Department of Homeland Security partnered with DOGE to quietly roll out an upgraded federal system that lets election officials check the citizenship status of entire voter rolls using Social Security Administration data and immigration databases. So it's crap. You already know their immigration status. The Department of Homeland Security and DOGE already secured it for you. They called it, say, Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlement. SAVE was originally created to verify citizenship for people applying for public benefits. That means it's been around a while. Y'all, this ain't new. But he needs it now because I'm losing. And I can use this ambiguous language to oppress the vote. It was originally created to verify citizenship of people applying for public benefits. It was never designed to investigate registered voters, but DOGE rewired it into something the United States has never had before, a searchable national citizenship database, built without public process, without congressional approval, and without answering basic questions about accuracy or data security. That's why they want your voting rolls. The SAVE Act's entire justification is that we need a way to verify voters' citizenship. You already got it. You already have it in that system. That system is already operational right now. No legislation required. So what is this legislation truly trying to do? Strip 21 million Americans of voting eligibility by requiring passports or birth certificates to register. And marriage licenses. You're going to need those little gems too, ladies. Because if you voted under your first marriage name, then you voted under your second marriage name, and then you hyphenated your third marriage name, you're getting where this is going? Yeah. You 65 years old, been voting since you were 17, whatever, 18, whatever. The database is built and purge infrastructure is ready. The Senate floor fight is the distraction. Don't get distracted. Epstein moved to the highest rooms in Earth carrying evil, and still the donors kept opening. The thing that's mind-boggling to everyone is not the things that Epstein did. It's the vast amount of people who helped him cover it all up. They were such a huge part of it. It's insane. Bankers, politicians, scientists, judges. Now, they may have all been customers as well. Presidents, billionaires, Silicon Valley executives, socialites, traffickers, handlers, government officials, influencers, public figures, royalty all appeared somewhere in the long shadow of his world. At some point, the scandal stopped being Jeffrey Epstein alone. It becomes the size of the civilization that kept making room for him. Wow. There was a case that happened. It was DEA investigation, Operation Chain Reaction. It had been running since 2010, and nobody talked about it for some reason. It was an investigation that had been running for nearly a decade before Epstein's 2019 arrest. Investigation into Epstein. The DEA, that's the Drug Enforcement Agency, working through a crime unit called OCDETF. I'm going to shorten that to OC. Has spent 5 years mapping Epstein's entire financial network, meaning they already knew where the bodies are buried. Figuratively speaking. The DEA tracked $50 million in sketchy wire transfers across 9 bank accounts in 5 countries. Switzerland, Cayman Islands, France. That's clear money laundering. But anyway, New York. They identified 15 targets, including 13 people and 2 shell companies, and compiled it all into a 69-page memo that was stamped unclassified on every single page, many of which were followed by a large wall of redacted text. The real kicker, an informant, that a drug trafficking source told the DEA that Epstein wasn't just trafficking girls, he was bankrolling the distribution of ketamine, ecstasy, and meth. Now imagine there's quite a few drugs flowing through there because you're keeping these little young girls all drugged up. You got to be getting your drugs from somewhere. Now I don't know if you're the one providing them. I'm pretty sure you're getting them from somewhere, but money changes hands at some point. And that's a lot of people and a lot of important people who don't buy their own. And ketamine is particularly horrific because it's a dissociative anesthetic. It causes amnesia and physical incapacitating you so you can be raped. It's basically a date rape drug given to teen girls. Wow, to make them more compliant. Yeah. And unable to testify clearly later. Wow. Similar to Jean-Luc Brunel. In 2016, Brunel quietly began negotiating with the U.S. prosecutors. He was willing to testify about Epstein's trafficking operation. Epstein found out emails show someone requested $3 million to guarantee Brunel would not cooperate. The emails show someone requested $3 million to guarantee Brunel would not cooperate. Brunel was found dead in his cell in 2022. Ruled a suicide. 3 years after, Epstein was found dead in his cell, also ruled a suicide. 2 men who knew everything, neither made it to trial. Ghislaine. Wow. Did anybody get indicted? Nope. What happened? No charges. No charges filed, no indictments, no raids carried out on properties. The case sat in a bureaucratic limbo marked pending judicial until it was discreetly closed in 2023. The prosecutors who arrested Epstein in 2019 didn't even know this investigation existed. The recent investigation, Karina Chuliak was Epstein's girlfriend of 9 years. She's set to inherit most of his estate. And she's the last person he spoke to before he died. She was a dentist with a DEA registration, which is weird, who could prescribe controlled substances, I guess that's why, and multiple emails referencing delivery of Schedule II prescriptions, including opioids and benzos. She refused to speak to police. I just love how rich people and, Caucasian people can just refuse to speak to the police. And it works. They don't drag you on the ground, pepper spray you, shoot you, put the dogs on you, and it works. Anyway, they accepted that, and she has never been charged with anything. And then in March 2025, OCDETF, the agency investigating Epstein's network, was the same organization that played a role in the 2019 capture of El Chapo. Once again, so hypocritical, America. Getting rid of the bad men in every other country except your own country. Anyway, then Trump administration gutted it. Yeah. Under Todd Blanche, its decades of expertise were redirected into Operation Take Back America, turning a task force built to dismantle criminal enterprises into another weapon of immigration enforcement. Its 5,000 open cases were transferred to DHS, and nobody really knows what happened to them after that. Now loyalists to Trump control who gets investigated and who doesn't. Of course, all those cases are being thrown out of court because they're frivolous, and the attorneys you have, which you hire through nepotism and cronyism, don't even know what they're doing. And the cartel-connected rich guys who donated to the right people can sleep easier. America the beautiful. Ain't she something else? Ain't she? You just something, girl. Yes, she is. You just a skank all the way. Anyway, we have two massive federal investigations that produce years of intelligence and zero accountability for any of the people involved. America needs to stop thinking of Epstein as a single monster. I'm sorry, I wouldn't make a monster feel that bad as a single demon. Because I can see the monsters right now saying, hey! And the question everyone keeps asking is, how does one person accumulate that much leverage over that many powerful people? Well, leverage, you say? More than 20 high-profile figures resigned across academia, politics, law, and business. Criminal investigations are now active in UK, Norway, France, Slovakia, and Poland. 3 people have been arrested internationally so far with criminal investigations. Epstein is, of course, the U.S. Crickets, creak, 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 still can't reduce the unredacted. Fool. Well, anyway, I'm probably sure they don't exist anymore. They've been erased. I'm sure they have. Epstein built a social infrastructure that was so deeply embedded in the global power that his death didn't end anything, people. This man is dead, and it's still going. You think they don't have other people in place? Just like you killed Ayatollah Khomeini, and now what happened? It's somebody else right there. Same thing with this pedophilia. They killed Epstein. Oh, you think it stopped because Epstein stopped? Elaine? Wow. Wow. It just changed who controls the files. That's all. His operation didn't run on cash. It ran on banks that chose not to ask questions. Bank of New York Mellon produced 270 wire transfers, totaling $378 million through Epstein-linked accounts without flagging a single one until after his 2019 arrest, a decade past the legal reporting deadline. In 2017, Bank of New York executed 18 separate million-dollar wire transfers to JP Morgan, each for a round number occurring multiple times per month. A textbook money laundering red flag. That's the first thing I said. I'm like, that's textbook money laundering. Anywho, on a single day in June 2007, Epstein wired $7.4 million to Ghislaine, who swept it into a shell company called Air Ghislaine, and bought a helicopter 3 days later. Both banks watched it happen. JP Morgan has processed over $1.1 billion across 55 Epstein accounts. I guess you ain't saying nothing. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Their own compliance staff flagged human trafficking concerns internally. Senior executives overruled them every time. Well, you can begin your prosecutions right there. Anywho, more than $600,000 flowed to a 14-year-old girl, their own records described as having been purchased. Total federal criminal penalties across all banks, $0. The cover-up is not past tense. In 2025, the Trump administration shut down OCDETF, the exact unit that ran both Epstein investigations, zeroing out its $547 million budget and shuttering a database containing 770 million investigative reports. You got the wolf in charge of the hen house. You voted him in there. Yes, you did. That was a solemn oath for your fellow Americans. Gee, thanks. Anyway, the stated reason was immigration enforcement. When Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act and lawmakers went to a DOJ reading room to view unredacted files, they found that 70 to 80% still blacked out. No phones allowed, no staff permitted, and DOJ officials watching over their shoulders. And you know they had the dossiers on them while Bondi was supposed to be testifying. If that don't sound straight out of the Russian playbook, I'm trying to tell you, Putin couldn't have done a better job with this Trojan horse of Trump. He's sitting here because he got some leverage, which is why he is cha-ching all the way to the bank with this Iran Strait of Hormuz debacle while you decide to destroy Ukraine. Anywho, back to the ranch, to the war. To underscore how much of a strategic disaster this war has been for the U.S., we need to only look at the countless experts who strongly oppose this war being begun, but now suggest that Trump has no other option but to launch a ground invasion. And as you see, he's already there, the thing he swore he wouldn't do to all of his minions. And we're like, why are you shocked and surprised that he lied? He lies like breathing. Did he or did he not bust you all in to one of his rallies and leave you in the cold, old and young, to get home the best way you could, not once, but twice? A fool and his money soon part. Pick that Bible you got up sometime and read it. Wow. Anyway, but now they suggest that Trump has no other way. Decapitation strike failed to induce the collapse of the regime. It did. Just as you went over and kicked the hornet's nest or kicked the ant's nest, and they came piling out on you. And you were warned. Wow. Now facing a genuine existential threat, the regime is now deploying the weapon that every analyst predicted they would. Wow. Iran preventing commercial shipping from moving through the Hormuz Strait. It was not a surprise move. Only months after being forced into a humiliating retreat from his all-out trade war with China, Trump will now be effectively demonstrating that the U.S. military is incapable of ensuring freedom of navigation through one of the most geostrategically important trade routes on the planet. Whatever their advice was before the war, there will be many generals and policy advisors now telling Trump that a large-scale invasion of Iran is your only option to secure the strait. Wow. Maybe he'll put some tacky gold on it when he's done and place a plaque with his name. Or maybe a gold statue of himself. There you go. Wow. And, by the way, I told you, threw Israel on the bus, after it went so bad. I didn't do it. Israel did it. He claims the U.S. knew nothing about the strike on Iran's South Par gas field, despite Axios responding it was coordinated with and approved by his own administration. Trump is now trying to distance himself after the fact that the consequences of that strike are unfolding in real time. You're disrupting your own oil flow. We won't get... Well, anyway. Mr. Kash Patel, Trump's FBI director. He got hammered for being unable to answer basic questions about his agency or why he fired all the counterterrorism experts, knowing that Trump was going to attack Iran. All of the counterterrorism experts who advised him against this are the ones you fired because you said they were DEI, and you put in your loyalists, your nepotisms, your cronyisms, and this is what you got. Anywho, the House Judiciary Committee had in mind queried paddleball as to how many days before they invaded Iran. Did they know we were going to launch an invasion? Representative Steve Cohen asked. He said, was it 2 days, 3 days, a month? It was sometime before, said Patel. Sometime before? Sir. Go ahead and ask him what was on everybody's mind. What with that knowledge? Why did you fire at least a dozen agents in counterintelligence unit 12 that specialized in Iran counterintelligence? Why did you fire the people whose job it was to do this? As I said earlier, Congressman, I don't work on timelines. It doesn't matter when I did it. When these terminations occur, there are internal investigations conducted by the career of the FBI that highlight unethical or inappropriate conduct, and it's up to me to make it, the decision. Okay. So the people you fired those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not? I don't believe so. Okay. They work with counterintelligence, are they not? I'm taking you at your word. I'm not familiar, deflected Patel. You're the chief director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work? Stop with the nonsense and deflection and sidestepping and answer a question under oath, sir. People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and high standards. Okay. Well, what were those ethical violations? Was it that they told the people about the secret documents that were being held at Mar-a-Lago? Is that it? Was that their ethical violation, that when you got back in office, Trump, you retaliated against the very people who would have helped you against this debacle you have in Iran right now? I guess being small, petty, and vindictive doesn't always serve you well. And being lapdogs that disapprove everything won't serve you either. You know what's amazing to me? I told my friend the other day, it's like everyone saw the king was naked, and someone said, the king is naked. And you know what everybody did? They stripped and took off their clothes. Wow. What's the ethical violations, he asked. I said earlier, all those matters are pending litigation. If you can say it's pending litigation, you don't have to talk about it, because it's pending litigation. That will be surreptitiously thrown out, I'm sure. So I'm not going to comment, he says. What's being interrogated about is the purging of FBI officials who conducted the investigation into Trump's Mar-a-Lago after his first term. Wow. Anyhow, in an outrage, Schumer calls out the GOP to Save America. You saw all that. And it's just about purging it. It's not about showing your ID when you vote. It's about voter registration rolls, destroying them and purging them. That's what it's about. Yes, we all agree you should vote with ID. Guess what? We all voted with ID in the last election. That required a birth certificate for us to get it in the first place. Now, I don't know. Maybe the laws have changed. I'm old. But when I got my driver's license at the age of 17, 50 years later now, wow, Republicans repeat ad nauseum the voter ID talking point, but Schumer says the bill is really about sweeping purchase voter registration. Blah, 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 blah. Can y'all do some real work other than our money, taxpayer money, right on out the door? Now your companies are getting, your war machine companies are raking in all the debt money. Anyway, World War III started. Netanyahu is missing. In a major political shift, Yarvin Levin has been appointed as the interim prime minister of Israel, taking over leadership role. Let me look at my time here real quick. I'm out of time. From Benjamin Netanyahu. Pedophiles running entire criminal enterprise, cartel-like brutality, gas prices rising steadily, food prices rising, food supply shortages expected soon, farmers going belly up, incurring massive losses, 92,000 and more job losses, stock markets tanking, Dow definitely not at 50,000 anymore, citizens being gunned down in the streets by Hitler's brown shirts, locking up children, tolerating and covering up sex trafficking of children, bombing over 100 grade school children in your virgin sacrifice to your god Molech that you burned in the fire, and that are just flying out, and our money is just flying out the door, staggering. So now the Trump administration has admitted that they started a war that has killed thousands of people, cost billions of dollars, and causing mass chaos with no end in sight. Not because of an independent threat to America, but because of Israel's plans to attack another country. Not when their own country massacred so many women. Wow. The price of that choice is staggering. The administration ran on a platform of no more foreign wars, forever wars. That promise to put America first is now burning through roughly $1 billion a day bombing Iran. The Pentagon burned through over $5 billion in munitions in the first 2 days and spent over $11 billion just the first 6 days. Wow. Meanwhile, this administration has cycled through at least 6 different rationales to explain why this war was necessary. Wow. He's invoked that the Iranian people's freedom of speech and all the blah about the women and blah, blah, blah. But Trump could have did something when the regime massacred thousands of its own citizens, which was an estimate that ranged from 7,000 to 30,000. And they did nothing. That was in January. Millions of Iranians took to the streets in the largest protest since 1979 revolution. Trump told them help is on its way, urged them to take over your institutions. Then the regime massacred thousands of its own citizens. We didn't attack then. Since this was about, liberating the people. It's about liberating that oil. Don't you get it twisted. And that's why your little black and brown brothers are going to sacrifice themselves for the for the country. And Trump himself has personally outlined his vision for post-war Iran, of course, which involves much Iranian regime cooperation in oil production with the U.S. Let's just say that. Wow. And now he's mad with the countries that refuse, and he and Hegseth both. It's really embarrassing. It's truly embarrassing. Wow. Meanwhile, Trump's counterterrorism official Joe Kent, an Army Ranger combat veteran and former CIA paramilitary officer who lost his wife to suicide bombing in Syria, resigned in protest because he cannot in good conscience support this illegal war with Iran and exposes the White House lies on the way out. Wow. Hegseth, the only the best candidates. Let's talk about merit. Y'all remember when our parents told us you can do better? Yeah. You got to do better. Wow. Well, you've heard all of his bravado. And that always comes a lot from people who aren't, surprisingly, never done it. It's just shocking to see the depths of the depravity. Anyway, to my black and brown soldiers, don't forget, now while you're out there sacrificing your lives, they are going to remove your commemorative plaques because it hurts some person's feelings and makes them feel bad about themselves. Your contributions, they will be diminished. And if they don't completely deny them altogether, as you serving that flag. Because I saw that propaganda piece that J.D. Vance put out with this black man. We're out here to serve our country. Young black man, draped with the flag. We're out here to serve our country, people. This is our country too. And the ghetto person that they always use in their AI. Anywho, it doesn't work with us. It's like Nicki Minaj, but you all don't really know us or understand us anyway. So just keep going where you're going, and because it really works. It's so obvious that we get it. So keep going. Anyway, just remember that while you're doing all that, they're gonna remove your plaque. So we know that wasn't true. We know it was propaganda because we know better. You just showed us what you'll do to us. Strike us from the archives. Remove our names from the records. Tuskegee Airmen. And I'm supposed to think you're going to care about a grunt like me when I get back and try to get my veterans benefits? Okay, all right. We'll go with that then. It's your contributions that are going to be minimized. And don't forget, Shoshana, that's for our sisters out there. When you remember that prisoner of war in Iraq, when you ain't gonna get your Lifetime movie. Yeah. And I talked to you last week about the relationships between the of black people's treatment in Iran and Israel. It's amazing. And I told you about the son breaking in money from the drone company he has now, while Trump has basically submitted legislation that keeps the other competitors away. So then the multi-million-dollar contracts will go directly to his son. Wow. Okay. Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. But anyway, I got to get ready to get out of here. I told you how we were locked out of Canada, how they all went around us and said, you know what, we've had enough of you, America. We've seen enough. We've had enough. We're going to find another way around. And that is extremely detrimental to America. I'm going to talk about that more next week, because not having the dollar be strong, going to possibly into a recession, which we are closely headed, can be extremely perilous for us at this time right now, with this current administration hiring only the best, only the best candidates. Anywho, before I get out of here, here's my paparazzi bling I'm wearing today. And this is just a little urban piece I wear quite often because I love urban. I love all things urban. But this is kind of old now. Now I'm going to Hannah's Diamonds and Glitz. I think I posted her to my page, but I'll post her again. I call her Hannah Bear. It's Hannah's Diamonds and Glitz right here on Facebook. And this is just little urban feathery things. I just love, love, love them. And this is just a regular urban necklace. And I got this little bracelet to go with it. Has a little feather on it. Yes, I love it. And they're just $8 a piece. I love, love, love them. So I'm going to take a picture of it. I usually post it on their pages. But before I go to the next thing, you know, I love I guess I'm not like other people. I always tell you I'm from Planet Voltan. Well, I love to shop, you know, bargain shop. And I love to go what we call the tea shop. The tea shop is our name for the thrift store. And let me show you the bargain. I'm going to do a little project here, and I'm going to, you know, post all of the stages of it as I go through it. It's a little room I want to create for my niece, because she's been so wonderful to me, creating such a wonderful space for me. And so it'll be a little respite for her. But this is one of the pieces I found. Now, I'm not even showing you how much it is. This is how big it is. Look how big it is. It's huge, okay? Nice bowl. The things are on the bottom to keep it from slipping, the guards. It's for outside, so I can sit it on the patio. I love the rusticness of it. I thought about putting some clear coat on it, but I might even let it get a little scratches on it to give it a little more authenticity. It can be hung on a wall, or it can be a tray with a fruit or whatever. Guess how much I paid for this thing, y'all? See if you can see it. $4.09. Look at this thing. I love it. But, you know, things like that thrill my buttons. I don't know. What can I say? That's how I am. Best quotes this week. Jessica Taylor made this in 3/17/2024 from a tears made of 1% water and 99% feelings. You may not always end up where you thought you were going, but you'll always end up where you're meant to be, baby. From Finding Joy by Rachel Martin, titled The Brave Heart of Motherhood, Finding Joy. There was a moment when I realized I no longer was the same person, that life had changed. You ever been there? I'm not the same person life changed. I'm not. And the me before slowly faded in the fabric of the years. If I look closely, the scars are there. They're there. But they no longer cause pain. Now they were simply part of my story. Instead of being something I ran from, they became something that created the strength in who I am now. Ooh, I love that one, y'all. Check them out on my page. And y'all be careful out here. This is all I got for y'all. So until next time, this is Darlene's Renaissance. Peace out.